And here we go.
Sports!
I listen to you guys all the time.
It's awesome.
I'm in the mood for one of your classic anecdotes.
Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, that's enough.
Hey guys, there is someone I want you to meet.
Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net.
Hey, look, we're all part of the same team here.
Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Here we go. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm still Dave Hooker, even though a recent exchange at the Department of Transportation has me wondering a little bit if I'm still Dave Hooker. I think I am. Am I still Dave Hooker? Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I believe you are. What happened?
Loaded up on the program today. I'm going to tell you why Rick Barnes is absolutely undervalued and overly criticized. Also on the program, Kellie Harper has found a job. We'll compare her, Holly Warlick, and Kim Caldwell. SEC basketball, ESPN ties. The conspiracy theories are out there. We'll discuss with, I think, 500 SEC teams made the NCAA tournament. What advanced metrics say about the Vols' chances to reach the Final Four, what the SEC tournament and the championship game run says about Tennessee's chances of advancing far in this tournament. Same for Florida. Also, stat of the day, this day in Tennessee sports history, and Tennessee baseball actually lost. Can you believe it? To ETSU. Yes, that happened. We'll discuss. It could be a good thing. So I'm at TDOT. And the lady, Caleb, says, how do you want me to list your hair? Now, I have a love-hate relationship. Make it the poll question. Dave's better off with red hair, yes or no? Because, you were made fun of in school because you're a redhead. And then the ginger thing comes out midlife. But I remember red on the head and I'm not going to say it, that people used to say when I was a kid. But at some point you realize you're different and it differentiates you and you're like good with it. And then I'm happy with red hair. And I go to TDOT the other day and she asked me what color of hair do I want on my license because I lost my license. I'm like, what color do you think? She goes, blonde. And apparently there's so much silver in there now that some people think it's blonde. What color do you think my hair is, Caleb?
Right now it does look blonde. If I didn't know you like honestly, well, since I've known you, I would have said it was blonde. If I hadn't seen old photos of you and things like that, I would have guessed blonde, honestly.
Man, what the heck happened?
What's wrong with blonde hair?
All right.
My hair is mostly brown, but it can turn blonde, particularly in the summer. Are you saying I should be ashamed of being blonde, Dave?
No,
Sounds like you are.
I accepted the fact that I was a little bit different and I was good with that. And now suddenly I'm not different. I'm just a regular old Joe, I guess, but that's okay. All right. We're off and rolling on the program today. And I think I just sent the wrong attachment here. So I'm going to fix that, but let's go ahead and get to today's tough question.
So the poll question you want it to be, should Dave like his red hair?
Well, I mean, should, or I don't know. Would you rather be a blonde or redhead or something like that? You figure it out because I put the wrong attachment on the Twitter. So let's go ahead and get to today's tough question, brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Okay, I'm going to share some research I did this morning with you that probably won't make you feel good about Tennessee's tournament chances. So today's tough question is this, Caleb. Is Tennessee adversely affected by a deep run, which they had in the SEC tournament to the championship game, do you believe they're adversely affected?
Yes. It's why I said they should chuck it to begin with. I was never a believer in the SEC tournament championship game we're trying to win. I'm not one of those people that say, you try to win a tournament. That's what you're supposed to do. No, the important tournament is the national championship or the NCAA tournament. Conference tournaments are one, as we've talked about before, money grabs by the conference themselves. So I would, I absolutely think that going to the SEC tournament title adversely affects the Vols.
Okay, I do not, but all the research I did proves your point. So let's go through some of that if we can. If we can put the story in the chat box, I would like to do that. And then let's look back. First of all, no team has advanced past the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament since 2019. And in all fairness,
be clear, no team who reached the SEC title tournament game went past the Sweet 16.
Right. No team that reached the SEC. I thought I said that. But anyway, no team that reached the SEC championship game has advanced past the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament since 2019. And that was Auburn, who just got red hot, right? I mean, that was one of those situations where that could have been anybody. They could throw a ball up in the air and somehow it went in the basket in that run until they finally got cold or coldish in the semifinals. So that's been the last time that a team has gotten past the Sweet 16. So let's take a look at 2021. There was, of course, no tournament in 2020 because we had this COVID thing. We had Fauci on the television yelling at us and telling us what to do. So those days are over, thank goodness. Let's go back to 2021. Alabama beat LSU 80-79 in the SEC championship game. The Crimson Tide, a 2-seed, made the Sweet 16, which really for a 2-seed, that should be the bare minimum. Shouldn't it, Caleb?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, after reading what you said today, I got even more convinced because I'm going to talk about the seeding when you're done. But let's keep going.
Okay. They lost to number 11 seed UCLA in overtime, 88-78. It's worth pointing out, again, I'm proving Caleb's point instead of my own. It's worth pointing out that in overtime, they basically collapsed, which makes me wonder about fatigue. LSU, the team that lost in the SEC championship game, an 8 seed, knocked out in the second round of the tournament, lost to number 1 seed Michigan, 86-78. There's no shame in that. 2022, Tennessee won the SEC tournament by beating Texas A&M 65-50. The Vols 3 seed lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament to number 11 seed Michigan. A&M advanced deep into the tournament, but it was the NIT, so that doesn't count. 2023, Texas A&M in the SEC championship game, this time losing to Alabama 82-63. A&M was a 7 seed, lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to a 10th seed Penn State 76-59. It wasn't even close. They had to look dog tired. Alabama, a 1 seed, knocked out of the tournament in the Sweet 16 by 5th seeded San Diego State. So in and of itself, there's nothing bad about getting knocked out in the Sweet 16, unless you're a 1 seed. And that's bare minimum that you should be able to accomplish. 2024, Auburn beat Florida 86-67 in the SEC championship game. The Tigers, a 4 seed, were upset by Yale 78-76 in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, 10th seeded Colorado upset a number 7 seeded Gators in the round of 64. Caleb, all of that proves your point. I am still of the mindset that these are 20, 21-year-old kids and their bodies bounce back and fatigue is not a factor. But I will enter this into the conversation. What about mental fatigue? What about emotional fatigue? Getting up for that game. Tennessee had to get up for the Auburn game. They had to get up for the Florida game. How many games can you get up for in a month? Because you need to get up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. And I don't know that Tennessee or any other team can get up. They didn't have to get up for the Texas game in the quarters. But I don't know that you can get up for 8 games in a month. That's asking an awful lot. So I don't agree with you on the physical fatigue, and I've pretty much dug my heels in the sand on that. But emotional fatigue, I'll give you some of that. I'm willing to go down that road after running the numbers.
Yeah, I'm going to go physical fatigue, and I'm going to
right.
But I'm going to go both. I'm going to go both because there's 2 points I make. I've said from the start that the SEC tournament game can wear you down, but here's the other point with the SEC tournament game. The point you brought up, you named 6 teams. I'm sorry, you named of the 8 teams. Let's just go back to 2021. Let's go post-COVID, the last 4 years. Of the 8 teams to play in the SEC tournament, 7 made the NCAA tournament. You mentioned Texas A&M. Dave, 6 of the 7 lost before they reached the round that the seeding indicated they should reach. 6 of the 7 lost to lower seeds. So when I say seeding indicated, if you're a 1 seed, you underachieve if you don't make the Final 4, right? Because you're a 1 seed. If you're a 2, well, I'm saying if you're a 2 seed,
yeah,
1
I
seed is
see
fine.
where you're going. Yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah. 6 of them lost before the round that their seeding was projected to get them to. 6 of them lost to lower seeds in the tournament. Like, that's an insane stat. Okay, like, and the only one that didn't was LSU, which was an 8 seed, and then they lost to Michigan in the second round. You're right, no shame in that. But that's a wild stat when you really think about it. And when you take that into account, I don't know how you can look at the SEC tournament. And by the way, when you add Auburn and Tennessee in 2019, then you could say that goes from 6 of 7 to 7 of 9, because Tennessee lost to a lower seed 2 in the NCAA tournament. Now, they were a 2 seed, Purdue was a 3 seed, but still applies. When you take all this into account, I don't really think there's a debate that the SEC tournament wears you down. Now, maybe I haven't tracked fully on this, the number of seniors on a team, the experienced players, the depth, all of that may work in your favor. Like, if you have a bunch of seniors on your team, maybe it won't have the same emotional fatigue as if you have a bunch of freshmen, something like that. But I think in general, yeah, it does wear you down. And Dave, it's no secret that Tennessee's most successful run under Rick Barnes, the only time they didn't lose to a lower seed in the NCAA tournament under Rick Barnes was last year. What did they do in the SEC tournament last year, Dave? They lost on Friday despite winning the SEC regular season title outright. They were the best team in the SEC from beginning to end, won the regular season title outright, and then in their first game in the tournament, lost to Mississippi State and went home. And then they go and make an Elite 8 run. And if Jonas Adu doesn't take himself out of the game because he's scared, they're in the Final 4.
Oh, we got out physicaled. I mean, I have trouble blaming him for that. I just
I don't.
Player.
He didn't just get out physicaled. You can get out physicaled. You can lose. He was air.
Well, he definitely quit in the second half.
That's what I mean.
Let's just steer this back, though. The SEC tournament, I cannot, with good conscience, tell any team that they should lose on purpose, and I'm not going to do that. But I am going to propose something else. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. Banks & Jones. It's time to stop with the SEC tournament. I mean, you can't tell a young man or a coach that's a competitor at heart, and if you get to this level, you are a competitor at heart. You can't tell that person to not compete at the highest level. That's how they've gotten to that point. The lights are on. The fans are in the seats. Everybody's excited. The officials are making too many foul calls. You cannot ask a young man to turn it off and on. You're just not wired like that. I don't think you can ask many professional athletes to do that. You can in the NFL. That's why they take the last week of the regular season off. So just get rid of the SEC tournament or do this. Here's another idea. How about make it in January? the SEC tournament coming right out of non-conference play. You play an SEC tournament, you are the champion, and then from then on, Caleb, you're selling it, marketing it with Tennessee takes on Florida, the SEC champion on Thursday night, and you've got something you can market and you can spin, and it doesn't take away from your opportunity to go deep in the NCAA tournament. I'm not arguing this on Tennessee's behalf. I'm arguing this on the SEC's behalf. Something needs to change because right now you have a tournament that it was obvious that Greg Sankey was pushing that this tournament is important, even though, is that called gaslighting? When you tell somebody something's true, but it's not?
Well, when you tell somebody something's true or false, but it's the opposite, basically you tell people that they're crazy for believing their own eyes and ears.
Okay, well then he's gaslighting. He's gaslighting SEC basketball fans, isn't he? He's telling them that the SEC tournament is significant when in reality we know it's not, and in fact it might be preventing teams from going deep into the NCAA tournament, and that to me is dastardly. You wouldn't do that in football, would you?
No,
like are nowadays.
I got an even crazier thing to break down for you, Dave.
Lay it on me.
I think outside of the bubble teams, now this wouldn't apply to the SEC this year because pretty much everybody got in, but typically I would say you have an incentive to throw the tournament game, because if an extra team like on the bubble or just off the bubble wins the conference tournament and gets an automatic bid, Dave, that's an extra $2 million for the conference, meaning a little bit extra money in your pocket as a team.
Okay. I'm up for changing anything, because the bottom line is, Dylan points it out, regular season conference leaders should be crowned the champion after the last game. Conference championship games don't matter at all in 90% of sports now.
Now,
Day says, great idea positioning the SEC tournament in January.
I love it.
Idea.
I like it because the thing is, the reason that you want to do the SEC tournament is you want to give that bubble it's an extra chance to get an extra team an automatic bid in the tournament. You know what I mean? Because if a bubble or a non-bubble team, if a bubble or a team not even on the bubble shocks everybody and wins it, circa Georgia 2008, that's an extra team from your conference that's going to the NCAA tournament. It's an extra $2 million. So you want to have the tournament for that reason. But yeah, hold it in January. I kind of love that idea. Now, the principle, I do say I agree with Dylan. Like, I don't like conference postseason games anyway. All due respect to Rory Kramer, I understand what he did with the SEC championship game in football in 1992, but that was a period of time. There's just no way to make it relevant anymore. And
okay, I can fix that too. May I raise my hand?
Yeah.
Okay. Whoever finishes 1 and 2 nowadays, or if they split it into divisions, whoever wins the East and West or North and South, or however they do it, those two teams lead off in the SEC kickoff for the following year in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. Those two teams face off. Whoever finishes 1 and 2, and you get rid of the SEC championship game. So you're essentially moving it to the next season, where it's a rematch of sorts, even though they might not have played in the regular season. They were 1 and 2 in the standings, so they get to sort that thing out, and it kicks off the year.
I love that idea. I'm a huge fan of that idea.
I'm throwing heat this morning.
You are. And by the way, I don't know. If I'm the SEC and Big Ten, I would get together in football. This is a different topic for another day, but I just want to throw this out. Forget the conference championship games. How about the Big Ten has a 9-game schedule, SEC has an 8-game schedule. How about they both just work with the NCAA to give everybody a 13-game schedule, so they just move an extra game so everybody plays the week of conference championship week, and you just have a 13-game schedule with 9 conference games and 4 non-conference games?
Well, the SEC has got to go to 9. It just absolutely.
They won't do it until ESPN makes some concessions.
Now, I understand why they're not doing it, but they absolutely have to do it. Now, Jack, I'm not saying this is across the board. He points out the 2024 UConn won the Big East, and 2023, not 2022, Kansas won the Big Dance and Big 12.
Well, okay, but I already gave this stat a while ago. Only 8 of the last 12 national champions did not win their conference tournament. That's not That's not a coincidence. Just going to say that.
And listen, if you want to take some of the all-time great teams, I'll go ahead and tell you it's pretty simple. They won their conference tournament and they won the NCAA tournament. If you want to take some of the all-time great teams, right? Like, I don't know that Carmelo Anthony's Syracuse team won their Big East tournament, but I'm betting they did.
I'm not sure to look that up.
You know off the top of your head?
I know this. I know this. John Calipari's only national championship. Kentucky had 2 losses that year. One of them was in the SEC tournament. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. Cityheatandair.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
All right, hot or cold, what advanced metrics say about the Vols' chances to reach the Final Four? So all of that negativity, as some of you call it, in the previous segment, saying that Tennessee would have to break from history to make the Final Four after a deep run in the SEC tournament, we wiped the dry erase board clean. Caleb, what do advanced metrics say about the Vols' chances to reach the first round? Hot or cold, and we're going to break it down by round. Wofford up Thursday.
Well, hold on. Let me go through the whole list real quick, and then we'll go round by round with advanced metrics. First of all, I love to troll you. You said the Vols' chances to reach the first round. They've already reached the first round. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Let me break down what I'm talking about here. And I got a column on it. I'm going to drop the link to my column now in the column too, or in the chat board too.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop. By the way, I got to reach out to Coop. I heard it was really sketchy, and I don't know if this is true. Maybe somebody can help me in the message board. And that is that Cooper's opening a smokehouse. We got to talk about that. But anyway, we'll get to that. Go ahead.
All right. So,
not like the THC guys. I mean, like meat.
Here's some data, and I tracked data on this yesterday, Dave, and I did a lot of thorough research. Rick Barnes' team, this year's Tennessee basketball team, guess what they're ranked in possessions per game?
I don't know.
Number 308. They're a very slow-paced team. Now, that's not every Rick Barnes team. They were actually in the top 150 last year, but this team plays very slow. It's even worse when adjusted for opponents, which Kim Palm Ratings does. The Kim Palm rating has their adjusted tempo. They're 346 in adjusted tempo. Now, that theoretically would work against Tennessee because slow tempo teams increase their chances for upsets in the NCAA tournament. However, I want to bring something up. Guess how many tournaments Tennessee has lost this year, Dave? And guess how many games Tennessee's lost to teams outside of the top 200 in either ranking this year?
I don't know, but it sounds like you're about to get attacked. But go ahead.
0. They won every game against teams outside of the top 200 in tournament rankings with an average margin of victory of 18.3 points. I kid you not. 18.3 points. I got more data for you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Ready for this? The first weekend, Wofford first, and then Utah State and UCLA. Guess which one of those teams ranks in the top 200 in tempo?
I don't know. Sounds like one's dogging it.
0.
All right.
All 3 of them are outside of the top 200 in tempo this year.
That stat is rough.
Yeah. Wait. It gets better. It gets way better. Okay. You ready for this?
Throw me a bone, Caleb. I'm nowhere close to done. Go ahead.
I apologize.
There, then what are we going to do about it? Order Caleb's dog a muzzle. Go ahead.
All right. Next, after that. Okay, wait, I'm not done.
Caleb brought his dog to the studio. It's bring your dog to the studio.
It was. I did. I did. I left my dog out today.
A lot of people don't know that. March the 19th is the day before the NCAA tournament, so it's National Vasectomy Day, but it's also bring your dog to the studio day.
Okay, so I'm not missing all the dog jokes. I'm just trying to get to the stats while my dog's going crazy upstairs, guys. Okay, all right. Now here's the other stat. Okay, so they're outside of the top 200. If Tennessee gets to the Elite Eight, Dave, they're likely to play Houston or Purdue. You ready for this stat? Houston, they're outside of the top 300 in advanced metrics.
Okay, by the way, Coop just texted me. It's not, he's not doing a smokehouse. That's totally made up. Go ahead.
All right.
What a weird segment this has turned into. Go ahead.
So, if Tennessee reaches the Elite Eight, so I just told you the first weekend, all three teams they play outside of the top 200 in tempo. If they reach the Elite Eight, they could play Purdue or Houston, right? Those are the two toughest teams they'll play.
Yes.
Both are outside of the top 300 in tempo. Tennessee, they only lose to teams that run tempo. That's just happened all year. The only two teams they've lost to all year outside of the top 100 in tempo, the only two teams they've lost to all year outside of the top 100 in tempo are Auburn and Ole Miss. They both were on the road and both were at the buzzer by 2 points. And they won't play anybody in the first round, second round, or Elite Eight that's in the top 200 in tempo. So the only round standing in Tennessee's way to reach the Final Four is the Sweet 16 matchup, which is going to be. But if they win that, they're either going to lose. I'm just going to say this straight up: Tennessee's going to either lose in the Sweet 16 or reach the Final Four, one or the other.
Okay, explain to me again why the Elite Eight is not a potential pitfall with Houston in 30 seconds. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your pair.
All right, explain to me why the Vols should beat Houston according to the metrics, assuming they get there.
Because again, Tennessee has not lost to anybody outside. Tennessee's only two losses to anybody outside of the top 100 in tempo this year are Auburn and Ole Miss. Both were by 2 on the road at the buzzer. Houston in tempo, in terms of running tempo, is outside of the top 300. They're one of the slowest paced teams in basketball. That plays right into Tennessee's hands. Tennessee doesn't lose to slow-paced teams. Okay? So that's the point.
The metrics, I like the metrics because they back up common sense. I see sometimes some of these metrics and some of these analytics don't back up common sense. This, to me, I looked at the region, and I've watched a lot of basketball, and I looked at it, and I thought, those are a bunch of defensive-minded teams. So it backs up exactly what I thought. All right, Caleb, so how are we doing, hot or cold here? You've got me confused.
Hot or cold, we'll just go round by round, and we'll say how hot I am on Tennessee winning that round.
All right, let me text Coop back real quick. He said, I don't know who started that, but it sounds pretty believable, I will say. So I'm texting back. So no, LOL, because I want to make sure that he's not opening the smokehouse and giving up on the NFL, because that guy's got an NFL future. I thought that was strange.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, so we're doing hot or cold moving forward?
Yep.
Okay, you set them up because you got me a little confused with your advanced metrics. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, so let me just start with this, and then I'll go each round by round. Tennessee has lost to only 2 teams all year that are outside of the top 100 in tempo, based on KenPom data and possessions per game. Those 2 losses are to Auburn and Ole Miss. Both are on the road. Both were at the buzzer by 2, and both are still top 150 in tempo. So, first round of the NCAA tournament, they play Wofford, who, and I got the data here, is outside of the top 200, Dave, in possessions per 40 minutes per game. And they're outside of the top 300 in possessions per game and outside of the top 300 in tempo. Easy win for Tennessee, right? 15 seed, easy win. They dominate.
All right. So how are we doing the hot or cold? How are you twisting this?
Are you hot on the fact that the tempo favors Tennessee in the matchup?
That's hot.
Yeah, but I thought that just by looking at it. How do the metrics and the analytics further that point?
Well, because Wofford is outside of the top 300 in tempo, which is why Tennessee has a massive advantage. Okay.
So Tennessee in the 20-point spread, does that mean that you would take Tennessee in 20 points? Because I would not.
Yes, I would. Matter of fact, how about we do this? We'll go each round and we'll say, would Tennessee cover in that round or not?
Well, we don't know what the spread's going to be.
No, we're just going to guess, though. Would they cover whatever the spread's going to be?
Okay, All right. Would they cover our made-up spread? All right.
They'll cover it against Wofford. All right, next round. UCLA is outside of the top 200 in possessions per game, and they're outside of the top 300 in KenPom tempo rating. Utah State is outside of the top 150 and barely inside of the top 300 in possessions per game. So again, both of them run slow tempo. Tennessee, UCLA, will they cover or not? Whatever the theoretical spread would be. I'm hot. They will.
That's hot.
I'll take it.
Utah State, would they cover or not? Whatever the theoretical spread would be.
If Tennessee played Utah State, right?
Yes.
The theoretical spread?
Yes.
I don't. I'll say I'm hot. I'm hot on that. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning.
All right. Now let's go to the Sweet 16, and this is where things get a little tricky because the tempo becomes an issue. In the Sweet 16, there are 3 teams that are in the top 100 that could give Tennessee hell. The most notable, the most likely team they'll play is Kentucky, who is 3rd in the KenPom ratings and tempo and 18th in the possessions per game.
I don't think Kentucky's going to be there. I don't think Mark Pope will get them there. But if they're there, I think is it Turner or Butler? I can't remember his name all of a sudden. That's got the shoulder injury.
I mean, he's been hurt, but he was hurt when Kentucky played Tennessee too.
Yeah. So, but I think he would give them a boost. He's supposed to play, and I would think that he would push that out. Okay. So who else? I don't think Kentucky's going to be there. Lamont Butler.
But if they do, are you hot or cold on Tennessee?
I'm going to have to say that I'm cold because Kentucky's beaten Tennessee twice, and I don't buy into that. Oh, it's hard to beat a team 3 straight times.
Now who does the voice?
Oh, I know. But, I mean, Caleb, if you beat the hell out of me twice, do I want to fight you again? No, I do not. So I think that I've always thought that argument was silly.
Well, I'm hot because I believe in law of averages, and I don't believe Kentucky's going to shoot red hot from 3 times. Now, the other team, the second most likely team they'd face in the next round is a team they beat on the road earlier in the year. Illinois, top 15 in possessions per game, top 20 in KenPom tempo rating. Are they going to cut? Would they cover or not?
Say no.
I agree. No, they would not. I'm cold. They would not cover Illinois. As a matter of fact, I think Illinois could really give them trouble. Now, here's the scary one.
So what we do, my one takeaway to this point of this segment is you want Illinois to lose, right?
Yes, you want Illinois to lose, I think. Now, let's look at a couple of the lower seeded teams in the Sweet 16 because they're still a threat to Tennessee. Texas and Xavier, both 11 seeds, are playing for a play-in game. Tennessee beat by 4 on the road. They're 172 in KenPom, 143 in possessions per game. Xavier is top 100 in KenPom, 113 in possessions per game. Do they cover against either of those teams?
Yes.
Today.
Whoa, wrong one. Yes, I'm very hot on that.
That's hot.
All right, I'm going to say this. They don't cover, but they win because those 2 teams, even though the tempo will favor them, they're just not good enough to beat Tennessee, but Tennessee won't cover. All right, now here's where we get fun, and here's how we get to this. The Elite 8. Now, the Elite 8, there is only one team, Dave. Of all the teams Tennessee would face in the Elite 8, only one is in the top 100 in tempo. That is Gonzaga, a 9 seed. Don't you think even though Gonzaga runs tempo, Tennessee should beat them if they face off in the Elite 8?
Yeah, I can definitely roll with that. I think they beat Gonzaga. I think they're a better team than Gonzaga. But I'm going to bring common sense into it for a second and not just metric. When I have watched Houston this year, I've seen a tough physical team that plays like Tennessee, and then we're going to get to Houston, I assume. A tough physical team that plays like Tennessee and can out Tennessee. Now, the difference is Tennessee goes what, 8 deep?
Maybe. I think mostly 7.
Yeah. Well, Houston goes maybe 7. So let's say it's 6 and 7 or 7. I think Tennessee has one more dude in depth than Houston based off my evaluation of Houston. Go ahead. The Cougars.
Yeah, I agree. So Gonzaga has it. Oh, wait, I forgot one other Sweet 16 team they could face. This is the one that's a lock for them. If they face Troy, the 14th seeded Troy Trojans, if 14th seed Troy finds their way into the Sweet 16, I don't have to use tempo to argue why Tennessee would beat them, but Troy's outside of the top 200 in tempo in both ratings. Now, okay, so Gonzaga, I'll say this. If Tennessee faced Gonzaga, they would not cover, but they would win. So I'm cold on them covering. What about you?
I'm cold on them covering as well. I feel like
All
I'm
right.
agreeing with you too much.
Georgia is the 8th seed. They are 168 in possessions per game, but outside of the top 200 in tempo. Would they cover against Georgia?
I think they would cover against Georgia.
Wow, you're hot on them covering Georgia.
That's hot.
All right, now let's have some fun on these before we get to the two that matter the most. So let's say theoretically, Dave, there's a couple of low seeds we're talking about right here, and let's just get to them. There is a number 13 seed, McNeese State. And what are your thoughts on McNeese State?
I think Tennessee would cover. I'm hot. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee.
That's hot.
I am hot on Tennessee covering if they face McNeese State too. I'm going to keep going. That's 12 seed McNeese State. And they're outside of the top 200 in tempo in both. Another team outside of the top 200 in tempo in both.
Referring to Kentucky real quick, potentially beating Tennessee 3 times in a row. Derek says, fighting is a sport I can see competing for a third time because I made that analogy. Well, you never see the third matchup if the one fighter wins the first 2. He doesn't give him a third opportunity.
That's true.
Oh, I mean, it never happens. I used to be a big boxing guy. Go ahead.
All right, High Point. They're out of the top 200 in both as well. High Point's a 13th seed. Again, do I really have to address this?
Is High Point in Stony Brook? Like by the Hemp House?
If we're going to play that game, I want to see Longwood play Moorhead. But
no, I don't. Tennessee's premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Please use the promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED for 10% off. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, so they would cover against High Point. Now, wait. The 16 seed they could meet in the Elite Eight. Could you imagine a 16 seed going to the Elite Eight, Dave? But SIU Edwardsville. Luckily for Tennessee, if SIU Edwardsville does make the Elite Eight, they're outside of the top 250 in both tempo. So Tennessee would cover even if the spread was 25. Now the 3 that matter the most, the 3 that could legitimately make the Elite Eight. Clemson. Clemson is the 5 seed.
Can I redirect for half a second? Because I want to ask you this. Loveday says, I have Gonzaga ousting Houston, just me. Based off your metrics, tell me if I'm wrong, Gonzaga should give Houston all they can handle and possibly more.
Based off my metrics, Gonzaga is the team most likely to beat Tennessee if Tennessee goes to the Elite Eight.
Right.
They're the only team with a chance.
Based on the okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so Gonzaga is the only team with a chance if Tennessee makes the Elite Eight. 5-seeded Clemson. It's outside of the top 300 in tempo for Kim Palm and outside of the top 280 in possessions per game. Dave, I think Tennessee would beat Clemson by 15, even though they're the 5 seed.
Okay, I don't think that because I'm going to use my eyes. So you're going.
That's hot.
I'm going. That's cold because I think Clemson has a very experienced backcourt, and I think they're good, and I don't think they'd let it get away from them. So it would really depend on where the spread is. If it's 2 or 3, yeah, I like Tennessee to cover. If it's anything that's in double digits, I do not.
Okay, where you are is actually where I am with Purdue, the 4 seed, where I'm breaking with my rule. Purdue is outside of the top 200 in tempo on both fronts. I think Tennessee is going to beat Purdue. I don't think they'll cover. I think playing in Indianapolis is going to help Purdue a lot. And so that's the only reason I don't think Tennessee would cover. So I'm cold on Tennessee covering against Purdue. What about you?
I'm cold.
Okay.
But now I'm going to switch it. A revenge game.
That's hot.
All right, there we go. Now we get to the fun one. The 1 seed Houston Cougars. Dave, Houston is number 360 in KenPom tempo. They're number 357 in possessions per game. They play slow basketball.
I know.
Tennessee will be an underdog in that game. They'll cover it. What are you hot or cold on them on them covering, not upsetting them outright, but at least covering against Houston?
I can actually tell you what they would be on this particular spread because I asked if you'll give me just a second to look it up. Tennessee, according to the metrics, I've got okay, just for the record, Tennessee would be a 4.5-point favorite against Kentucky, according to my gambling guy. So do you like them to cover that? Let's go. We're going to go back and then go forward.
Yes, I would because I just think law of averages say Kentucky can't keep shooting hot from 3 every time they play Tennessee.
I'm not going to say that for a team that's beat Tennessee twice. But anyway, Houston would be a 3.5-point favorite, and the over-under would be at about 126.
I'm definitely on Tennessee covering that. I'll go further. Tennessee will cover the spread that Houston has over them. So if whatever Houston is favored by, Tennessee will win by more than that. I'm hot on that. Hot. So
That's hot.
Tennessee will either make the Sweet 16 or make the Final Four. There's no in between. That's the biggest takeaway from this.
Okay. All right. So you have Tennessee either Sweet 16 or Final Four. So
those are the only 2 times they get eliminated.
We get into the conversation then pretty quickly about Rick Barnes getting deep into the tournament. Second round Rick. We'll discuss all of that. Portions of the program brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. If you join the channel for just $4.99, you get a $20 gift certificate to Hound Dogs of Knoxville. They just rearranged their store, by the way, and it looks fantastic. They're on Kingston Pike. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. That is HOOKED for 10% off. I'm not going to stat of the day after that analytics segment. So I'm going to switch up the order a little bit. Is that okay with you?
Fine with me.
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
Brought to you by Double D Piping. I'll tell you more about them here momentarily, Caleb. But this day in Tennessee sports history is...
On this day, 11 years ago, Tennessee basketball beat Iowa in overtime for a play-in game as the 11th seed. Winning that game got them into the NCAA tournament. It was a play-in NCAA tournament game. And Conzo Martin's team then beat 6-seeded UMass and 14-seeded Mercer to reach the Sweet 16. It was kind of a bittersweet pill because right before the SEC tournament, there was a petition. Remember this, Dave, of 37,000 signatures to fire Conzo Martin and rehire Bruce Pearl back. And
yes, which was for some, I'm not throwing the whole Tennessee fan base under the bus, but for some racially motivated by a talk show host in Knoxville that liked to call him Quanzo, which I thought was very distasteful. Go ahead.
Yes, and for others, loved Bruce. And also, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that based on things you've told me, I have half a mind to believe that Bruce Pearl was somewhat behind that petition being out there with a fake account. I mean, I'm just going to tell you that I feel like Bruce Pearl was involved in helping that thing get out there.
That had never crossed my mind, but I am not going to argue with you.
So
that makes a lot of sense because I think I've shared that someone from Bruce Pearl's camp who might have had the initials BP called me and said, you know, it would be good to write a column about Mike Hamilton's biggest mistakes and which should be number one, the Bruce Pearl firing. Love Day says love enthusiasm, Caleb, and all that.
Did he do it like the Trump way? Like, I don't know if you know this, like in the early 90s, Trump would call into radio shows pretending to be someone who's done business with Trump in a fake voice. And he'd be like, let me tell you about how great of a businessman Donald Trump is.
No, of course wasn't Bruce. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So Tennessee did beat Iowa in overtime, and they ended up going to the Sweet 16. And honestly, should have gone to the Elite Eight, but a bogus charge kept them out of the Elite Eight after they lost to Michigan. But the double overtime win against Iowa, the single overtime win against Iowa in the play-in game got them there, and was one of many instances on where a play-in team made a run in the NCAA tournament.
Yep. Do me a favor. Do what the one, the only Cooper Mays says.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
And he's not opening a smokehouse. By the way, how did he not get invited to the combine? Is that not bizarre?
I don't think he needs the combine. I think because again, the combine is something that could theoretically hurt him because he doesn't like technically have the measurables. So I think it's his game tape and his understanding of the game that's going to help him.
So this morning is one of the many mornings that I'm driving around in my Jeep that I absolutely love. And it's from Ted Russell Ford. Ted Russell Ford in Lincoln, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer in East Tennessee. Get better, Andy White. We love you. And I just want everybody to know that when you drive off their lot, you absolutely have this feeling of joy in the vehicle and the deal that you got. And the buying process is so easy. They're doing it like none other. They're at Ted Russell, Ford, and Lincoln. coming up on the program, we are going to dive into Rick Barnes versus Bruce Pearl. Why one guy is way, way, way undervalued, and I think it's pretty darn unfair. It's Off the Hook Sports with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in
Ginger Power, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Hey, do me a favor. If you're on the show right now live, we appreciate it. We're 10 a.m. on YouTube and then wherever you podcast. So if you could please go ahead and click that like button, the thumbs up button. It really helps us grow the channel. And if you haven't subscribed by this point, I would encourage you to do so. We've got some big announcements coming up, regular guests on the program, big time guests on the program. So we're hitting high gear as we head into the summer. We're not waiting for football season. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. He goes to trial. Other attorneys do not do that. I'm telling you, they'll settle and settle for less. Broadcast from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. So let's go ahead and dive into a column that I wrote. If we can drop that in the chat. And it is this, Caleb. It is going to be, if you don't mind, what the H? Because Rick Barnes is very unfairly characterized. And the nickname Second Round Rick is just not appropriate. Here we go.
What the H?
Wow, I've never worked hard on anything. What a cool life.
For real? The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right. Second Round Rick. That's what they call him. That's incredibly unfair. And I'm going to tell you why. And I want our poll question just to be this. And I'm not comparing Rick Barnes to Bruce Pearl just because Bruce Pearl used to be Tennessee's head basketball coach, but I kind of am. I just think there's still this infatuation with Bruce where I think more than 50% of the fan base would immediately trade Rick Barnes for Bruce Pearl. Maybe that's the question, Caleb. Would you trade Rick Barnes for Bruce Pearl right now? Do you think more than 50% of the fan base would?
Not anymore. Maybe 5 years ago, but not anymore. Only because Bruce Pearl has somewhat even the competition with Rick Barnes. And as we're going to get to, I think people are catching on to Bruce in a way that you just have, interestingly.
Okay. Well, I think still close to 50% would, perhaps more. I think a significant amount, 30. Can we agree on 30% still would? You're not even that high?
Yes. Maybe 30%, but I don't know. You know, again, you got to remember this. Barnes is in his 70s, but ain't like Bruce Pearl ain't in his 60s.
See, that's what kind of keyed me off on this. So I was doing the show with Will West, Tyler and Will. Tyler's been out with they say butt implants. Kardashian is what they call it. I don't know if that's true or not. But the fact is, both guys have made how many Final Fours, Caleb? We'll say it for our audience. One. Both made one. And I don't remember Rick Barnes' run to the Final Four at Texas. I'm not going to claim to. But I will tell you that Auburn's run to the Final Four was all about getting hot at the right time. And that could happen for this year. That could happen for Florida, Auburn, Wofford, Tennessee. I mean, sometimes you just get red hot and you're running through the tournament. Are you telling me that Georgia State was better than any of the teams they beat back, 7-8 years ago? Absolutely not.
No, not at all.
Okay, so this, according to Dylan, people miss Pearl like they miss Kiffin. Great stuff in the message board. Rick has surpassed Bruce at this point. Barnes has 2 SEC regular season championships. Okay, so this number, though, is more important than that one, which is 1 Final Four apiece. This number is, I think, incredibly significant. So I did the math, and I'm not great at math, but I'm pretty good. I'm good enough to do percentages. Barnes has advanced to the Sweet 16 or beyond 33% of the time. So if you break it down, that is 27 times in the NCAA tournament, and he's made the Sweet 16 or beyond on 9 occasions. Pearl, who coached in Division II until 2001, does not have as many appearances in the SEC tournament. So he's advanced to the Sweet 16 or beyond 38% of the time. Pearl's record is better, but not by much. He is advanced to the Sweet 16 on 5 occasions in 14 attempts. So my question is this for you. Is it second round Rick or is it bounced out Bruce?
Ooh.
Or is it both?
Well,
or is it neither? You have 4 choices.
Second round Rick or bounced out Bruce? Both or neither? Well, is recency bias allowed, Dave?
Certainly. I mean, you can. This is very subjective. You can go in any direction you want to.
Well, if you factor in recency, and let's just go post-COVID. I mean, the way I used to separate errors pre and post integration, I'm now doing COVID, pre and post COVID. But
I'm too, actually.
Post COVID, Bruce Pearl has not made it past the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Rick Barnes has made it to the second weekend each of the last 2 years.
Okay, so are we having a debate who is the better coach?
I wonder if we're having a debate on who struggles more in the big one, because I think it's marginal at best. And I mean, let's not point this. I mean, let's not forget this, Dave. I just want to add this. Auburn's Final Four that they made in 2019 was that they were compiling a team that was at the centerpiece of an FBI investigation that got Will Wade fired and resulted in them under Pearl getting a postseason ban in 2021.
Well, that, and I don't want to question Pearl's moral compass, but I will certainly not question Rick Barnes's moral compass, who I think is all about helping young men and doing it the right way. And again, maybe we're average dudes, maybe Pearl's an average dude, and Barnes puts the standard pretty high up there as just a man, and I think he does. But I'm not knocking Pearl. I'm not trying to knock his character at all. But Rick Barnes is elite, right?
Very elite. Very elite. And I mean, he's one of the highest character people to ever coach. I mean, this is a guy, I just want to tell a story, Rick Barnes, real quick, Dave. After he got fired by Texas, you remember TJ Ford, who was the National Player of the Year, who helped him get to his one Final Four. TJ Ford was going back to Texas to graduate, to finish up his school. Rick Barnes, literally the summer after he was fired by Texas, went back to Texas to witness his graduation. Honestly. I mean, that
nobody does that. Nobody does that.
Nobody does that. He's one of the best people to ever be a head coach. And if you watch him, there's a great interview of TJ Ford just crying on Rick Barnes' shoulder. Like, basically, you could tell sees Rick Barnes as honestly another father figure for him. And I mean, it's actually one of the most emotional moments you'll watch if you go to YouTube. Just write Rick Barnes, TJ Ford graduation. And Barnes made sure to go to it. So the highest character guy. And also, I'm going to say this. There's no question that his Final Four team, even if it was a long time ago, was 100% above board, right?
Yes.
Are we we can safely say Bruce Pearl's was literally not above board. They have a postseason ban from it.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sharing off the record stuff, but I mean, everybody knows he got a divorce. Getting a divorce does not mean you have a poor moral compass. Somebody can go crazy in a marriage, but it does. You have legitimate proof of cheating within his program. We're not drawing conclusions based off like, oh, I heard Lane Kiffin was in a Mercedes with 2 chicks and wrecked. We're not doing all the rumors and innuendo. That's fact. What you're reporting is fact.
Exactly. What I'm reporting is fact. And 2 things here. Bruce Pearl has been caught cheating twice. At least his program has. And unlike Rick Barnes, Bruce Pearl's also, this is the lowest maybe, he snitched on another program for cheating.
Well, he snitched on another program, but I will argue the worst thing that he did was lying to his superiors at UT and then lying to the NCAA. I've used this analogy before. I was on radio at the time. We don't have FCC violations, so we can say all kinds of stuff if we want to. I just bleep myself out. But with Bruce, he lied to the NCAA. That to me is the equivalent of, we're doing a radio show that's monitored by the FCC, and you curse on there, Caleb, not you, but rhetorically. Somebody curses and then lies about it to their bosses. Now, everything's recorded now, but used to be it went out into space and it was gone. You didn't record every second of the radio station. So you lie about it to them and you lie about it to the FCC, and the FCC happens to be sitting in the parking lot with a recorder and they've got it on tape. Then you look like a real jackass. And then your athletic director looks like a real jackass. So they had no choice but to fire him. And that's stuff that's on the record too. Again, not rumor and innuendo, but if you want to point to one guy of having higher character, it's obviously Rick Barnes, right?
Obviously Rick Barnes. Yes, 100%. And by the way, for those who don't know the story, Deon Thomas was the player that Bruce Pearl ratted out years ago. Okay, this happened way back. Deon Thomas had taken some money to go to Illinois, and Bruce Pearl was an assistant coach at Iowa, and he secretly recorded a conversation with Deon Thomas that showed that Thomas was being paid a little bit of money under the table to go to Illinois. Pearl turned that money over to the Pearl turned that tape over to the NCAA, got Illinois put on probation. Deion Thomas still ended up going to Illinois, but obviously this is the 1980s. He had a major black mark over his head that hurt him in a lot of ways. And
I'm going to defend him on that. He was trying to get proof of cheating. I never had a problem with that.
I do, because of what he did 20 years later. He's been caught cheating twice since then. And by the way, I don't know if you know this story, Dave. In 2013, when Bruce Pearl had a show cause from the NCAA and was trying to get a job back, he publicly apologized to Deion Thomas. Now, why did he wait till then to apologize to Deion Thomas? Because he wanted another job, right?
Right. No question about it. He felt like he got put in coaching purgatory, which he did. And I'll defend him on that. Now, in retrospect, there's been cheating issues since, and he certainly comes across as a hypocrite. But in that one instance, if you're trying to prove that your competitor's cheating, it's not something I would do. I'm not one to gripe to the officials and the refs, but if the other guy is indeed cheating, I don't have a problem.
This is the equivalent of, I'm sorry, it's the same thing. Jose Canseco did steroids. He's mad he got caught, so he's going to rat out everybody else for doing steroids. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sorry. This is, and then a great example. Remember when Pete Rose wanted to sell a book? And so to sell a book, he decided to finally admit that he was betting on baseball after 15 years of denying it?
Yes.
That's what Bruce Pearl did. He felt he was blackballed by the NCAA, and he wanted a new job, so he publicly apologized to Deion Thomas. It was embarrassing. So it was like, I'm sorry. Rick Barnes, not only has he never been caught or implicated in a cheating scandal, he's never ratted anybody out for doing it either. Okay,
and
Rick Barnes.
Again, though, in a vacuum, that incident, I don't hold against Bruce Pearl. In a vacuum, when it happened, he's trying to turn his competitors in. I get that, but that also could potentially clean up the sport. So I don't have a problem with that in a vacuum.
I don't know. It comes across as a little like this is where the whole Fulmer thing, we get back to Fulmer in Alabama and back in those days, 99 and 2000. Dave, let's be honest. Alabama fans aren't completely without merit when they feel like Fulmer got involved in helping to turn them in. Now, a lot of other coaches complained about Logan Young. Fulmer's not the only one. Steve Spurrier, look it up. A bunch of them did.
Oh, no. Listen, I've read the affidavit from the letter that he's handwritten sent to Roy Kramer. And was it Roy Adams in Memphis?
Yeah. Yeah, Roy Adams.
He calls him everything under the book. And, in print. And I don't know. I was going back in the News Sentinel archives and reading this stuff they had collected. And I guess it was reported when I was younger. It was a little bit before my time. But yeah, he was not only looking to get Roy Adams in trouble, he was looking to burn him to the ground.
Right. Well, Roy Adams, I didn't mind him wanting to get him in trouble because he was mad that Roy Adams was way too much around his program and messing things up. But the wanting to turn in Alabama was to get people off his back with the academic fraud investigation.
Right.
That was now
the thing with Roy Adams is he liked football players a little too much.
Let's also, I know what you're going at. I know the story, but
it's not going at, it's fact.
No, I know.
You can have a car and a scholarship if you do this to me.
Yes. Now, actually, bringing up Fulmer is very relative because Fulmer and Barnes, Fulmer and Barnes, similar in this way. Dave, think about this. The Pearl-Barnes comparison is very much like the Spurrier-Fulmer comparison, if you think about it. Like, Spurrier is the offensive genius who, is just like a coaching savant, I guess, if you say, but actual national championships, he and Fulmer have the same number, don't they?
Yep.
The exact same number of national titles. And by the way, Spurrier doesn't even have an undefeated season. Philip Fulmer does.
Yeah.
So
Steve got it.
Oh, I know.
I know you got it. And I don't really want to go down this road, but I know it's a fact from former players that would essentially ostracize the players that agreed to that arrangement.
Also, there's
it wasn't widespread. It wasn't like a bunch of players are doing this.
Right. And it wasn't like Fulmer. Yeah.
It was like two guys, and I could tell you it was, but I'm not going to go there.
But wow, we've gone off the rails. I'm trying to clean this up, Dave.
All right.
No, honestly, is that a fair comparison? Is Barnes like Fulmer, where Pearl's like Spurrier, where everybody looks at Pearl and Spurrier as the savants, but then we're like, but they didn't have that much more success than Fulmer and Barnes.
Right. I'll go there, but the difference is when they matched up more times than not, Spurrier beat the dog stuffing out of Fulmer, right?
Yes, and also that is true. And also, I will say this: we call Pearl a liar. If there's Spurrier has probably never told a lie in his life. Honestly,
I think he's too cocky to want to lie. I don't think it's a moral thing.
He has never lied in his life.
I don't care if you like the truth or not. There's some people that say that, and there's some people that actually live that. And I think he lived that. All right, we're way late. The show represented by Banks and Jones.
Rolling, man.
Trial attorney banksandjones.com. Bounced out Bruce. Does that have legs? Kellie Harper has legs as she will be the head coach. Yeah, her career has legs. It does, as she will be the head coach at Missouri. Holly Warlick, Kellie Harper, Kim Caldwell. How would you rank them? The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Stat of the day. They never lie. Or do they? Stat of the day. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
Caleb, I'm all out of order. Straighten me out here. Stat of the day is what?
The statistic of this 24-hour calendar period.
By the way, it's brought to you by Double D Piping, the best in fire suppression. Go ahead.
Is this. In 5 of Tennessee's 6 NCAA tournament appearances under Rick Barnes, they were eliminated by a lower seed before the round that their seeding would project them to get to.
Give me that again and tell me how you're projecting it, because I know how you're doing it, but it's a little confusing, so I want to make sure that everybody's on board.
In 5 of Tennessee's 6 NCAA tournament appearances under Rick Barnes, they were eliminated, losing to a lower seed. In all 5 times that they were eliminated, losing to a lower seed, they were eliminated before the round that their seeding projected them to make. So, for instance, if you're a 3 seed, if you're a 1 through 4 seed, you're projected to make the Sweet 16. 2 seed, Elite 8. You get the picture. Your seed projects you to a round.
The picture. Makes it sound like you're tired, like you got someplace to be.
Well, no, I mean, okay, so yeah, 3 and 4 seeds are projected to make the Sweet 16 but lose. Rick Barnes, and I'll just break it down this way. 2018 3 seed should have made the Sweet 16, lost in the second round to an 11 seed. 2019 2 seed should have made the Elite 8, lost in the Sweet 16 to a 3 seed. 2021 5 seed should have made the second round, lost in the first round to a 12 seed. 2022 3 seed should have made the Sweet 16, lost in the second round to an 11 seed. 2023, I can't even remember the seed they were in 2023. That was when they lost to Florida Atlantic in the second round. Was 2023. Oh, they were a 4 seed. They were a 4 seed in 2023.
Coached by Lane Kiffin, if I remember correctly. No, we would. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So they did go as far as they were technically supposed to go in 2023 because they were a 4 seed, but they got to play 9 seed Florida Atlantic in the Sweet 16. So they still should have gone to the Elite 8.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they not as bad as Jerry Green that, lost to a lower seed all 4 years at Tennessee too.
Jerry Green. Yeah.
Come on, guys, it's game time.
4 downs. Can you count? 4 downs. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. ThanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Caleb, as usual, has been working incredibly hard. We had the metrics conversation earlier in the program, and while you may be a little bit confused, as am I, it was very insightful. This brought to you by Newbert Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Newbert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. Joe Newbert Collision right down below, Joe Newbert Collision Center. We also thank our friends down in Chattanooga, the Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com, QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said, hey, Bo. All right, let's dive into this. Caleb, help me set this up, because I believe that Greg Sankey strong-armed the NCAA selection committee, which just happened to be in Nashville where the SEC tournament was, and Greg Sankey made sure that he was on TV. Greg Sankey could, if he wanted to, blow up college athletics, and I'm still in that for my buddy Will West. And I think that he said, listen, if we don't get whatever the number was, 2 more teams, 12 to 14, 3 more, 1 more, whatever it was. If my guys don't survive the bubble, then I can do all kinds of mean things to you and your little sport called football. So, Caleb, that assertion strikes you how?
Your assertion actually makes more sense than what I wrote. Your assertion, it still doesn't make sense, and I'm going to break down why, because there's one play on you against that. But
you broke up a little bit. Say that again.
Your assertion makes more sense than what people have been, the real conspiracy people have been claiming, but it still doesn't make sense. I will say your assertion just doesn't make sense, and I'm going to dismantle it.
Okay, here we go.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop. What down?
Coop here. First down.
First down brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, facebook.com, Sports Treasures TM. What do we got, Caleb?
Okay, so the assertion on Twitter right now is that the SEC, with their ESPN tie, it's their contract with ESPN and their exclusivity contract with ESPN is the reason that they got 14 teams in the NCAA tournament. Now, if you believe the ESPN connection is why the SEC got 14 teams in the NCAA tournament, that takes a special kind of stupid.
Well, yeah, because CBS carries it.
Exactly. No, that's going everywhere right now. I want to dismantle that, and I want to dismantle yours. Yours doesn't take a special kind of stupid, Dave. Don't worry, I'm not going to call you that. But like,
I don't understand why anybody even thinks that.
Because people are dumb.
Okay, well,
by the way, the same way there was a belief that like There's an honest belief that the reason the SEC was so dominant in football was because they were just given slots in the national title game. It's like, but they kept winning them during the BCS era. It wasn't like they were just put in and lost. So yeah. All right. So first down is the point you just made. The SEC, ESPN doesn't even carry the SEC tournament.
No, that just makes
or
no
the
sense.
NCAA tournament. Yeah.
What do they think Scott Van Pelt's going to talk about it more because he likes college basketball? By the way, that show's unwatchable.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Stanford Steve, I don't give a darn who he picked. Go ahead.
CBS carries it. CBS, by the way, Dave, you ready for this? Is a Big Ten partner. Now, here's where your argument falls by the wayside. CBS is a Big Ten partner. I think you would agree that Big Ten is has the same power to wield over college athletics that the SEC does.
Yes, but my argument would be that the Big Ten doesn't care about basketball nearly as much as the SEC.
I would argue the Big Ten cares even more about basketball.
No, they're funneling their NIL money to football. They're spending more money in NIL than the SEC.
Yeah, but they have more basketball power.
And I think that's going to be a major problem.
Yeah, but they have more basketball blue bloods than the SEC by a large margin. I mean,
how many teams did they have make the tournament with all those blue bloods?
Well, here's the point I'm making though. One of the teams that got left out is one of their primary blue bloods in basketball. Indiana.
I don't think Tony Petit called and lobbied. I think Greg Sankey did.
I'm sorry. I totally disagree with you on that.
You can't argue with him lobbying. I'm sure he made a phone call. Now,
no, what I'm saying is that
strong arm would be something else, right?
I'm saying yes, but I'm saying the Big Ten had the same leverage and would have used it for Indiana just as much as Greg Sankey used it for another team. By the way, the one team that
Texas.
No, actually, it would have been Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt would have been the team to back in. They were the last team.
Neither should have gone in. They won a third of their conference games. New rule, by the way, you have to go 500 or better in your conference.
No,
the NCAA tournament.
Texas absolutely belonged. And I'm sorry.
No.
You think Greg Sankey was going to play hardball and strong arm to get Vanderbilt in the NCAA tournament?
I think that he made a phone call. I think it's somewhere in between. I don't think he just totally went laissez-faire, hands off. I think that he made a phone call.
Tony Petit makes a phone call for Indiana. Greg Sankey makes a phone call for Vanderbilt.
See,
who's winning that?
I don't think Tony cares as much as Greg Sankey about basketball.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry.
Here we go. Here we go. Second down.
Coop here. First down.
Oh, sorry.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. All right, Caleb, what's second down?
Second down. There's only one member of the 12-member selection committee that's from the SEC. And that's Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne. Why would now everybody's got this conspiracy about North Carolina getting in the NCAA tournament. By the way, I would agree they probably shouldn't have gotten in.
Let's start the way they got in. Bubba Cunningham is the head of the selection.
Yeah, committee. But he's 1/12 of it too. The rest of the committee had to agree. And
you're the head of the committee.
But okay, the head of the committee. What does the head? That's like Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah, you're Chief Justice, but the Associate Justices can rule however they want. And so it's not like you can fire the other committee members. And so, look, I'm sorry, like, we can have a debate about North Carolina, them getting it wrong, but 1/12 of the committee is made up of somebody from the SEC.
Caleb, come on.
Come on.
You're going, listen. First of all, he has to be out of the room when they discuss North Carolina, which is just stupid because you can't tell me they're not going to lunch together, dinner together, wine and a steak, all on your fans' dollar. So he's got influence. He could easily sway 2 or 3 cats. And really, that's all it takes because North Carolina was a bubble team. I will just throw this out there and you can rip it up if you want. But I think North Carolina made it because of Bubba. He called Bubba. And I think that Xavier made it to make North Carolina look like they should be in because they've got very similar resumes. Go ahead.
I think North Carolina made it because they're North Carolina, not because of Bubba.
Well, they're kind of one and the same to me, but I see where you're going.
Yeah, they made it because they're North Carolina, and you want those type of teams in the tournament. That's just the way things are. The same thing what happened to the Tennessee Lady Vols. They were on the bubble in the NCAA tournament on the women's side. So, okay, I'm just going to say it. There's absolutely no SEC bias from the selection committee. And so for the people, this whole conversation is people are claiming the SEC used its power by its connection to a network that doesn't carry the freaking NCAA tournament.
Okay, well,
to get more teams in the NCAA tournament.
Again, I think they use their power to some extent. Whether they strong-armed or not is another argument.
Now, I got a question.
Well, I mean, I don't understand this ESPN tie that you keep going to.
Wait, I got a question for you, though, Dave. Okay, you may think Tony Batiti's not lobbying. Wouldn't CBS lobby? Doesn't CBS have an incentive to have more Big Ten teams in because they carry it? And they didn't, if you're going to do the lobbying and the power and the strong-arming, wouldn't the CBS network strong-arm? And they didn't even, and that didn't work.
But listen, I think that Greg Sankey, in and of himself, regardless of his motivation, is one of the 3 or 4 most powerful people in college athletics?
Yes.
Okay, so I think he makes a phone call.
I don't think that phone call goes anywhere, but that's just me. But
okay, maybe it doesn't. That's up to Bubba to not take that call.
Yes, I think this was completely. Bubba. I think all 14 SEC teams getting in was completely objectively based.
Bubba.
Go to third down.
Maze here. Third down.
What's third down, Caleb?
All right, and if I'm throwing it on third down, you are John Chavis because you're going to give me the first down, and I'm going to throw for a touchdown.
Third and Chavis.
Yep. All formulas. Okay, so I just want to point this out. The SEC has 14 teams in. The previous record for most teams from a conference was the Big East in 2011 when they had 11. Every formula you can look at, Dave, favors the SEC getting at least 13 teams in, which would still be the record. Now, let me explain. These aren't biases or anything. They're mathematical formulas. The NCAA tournament's job is to pick the 37 best at-large teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on that, there were 13 SEC teams among the top 37 at-large teams. Actually, 12, because one of them won the SEC tournament title, Florida. Florida wins the SEC tournament title. 12 more SEC teams were among the top 37 at-large teams among the NCAA net rankings and the ESPN BPI and the KenPom rankings. So where's the bias? Now, the only one that wasn't, and I'm going to bring this up, is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was not. They were significantly below in all of them. But Dave, I got a question for you. If you're the number 1 rated conference in the RPI, the BPI, and the KenPom ratings, don't you earn one team, just one extra team getting into the tournament?
Well, I think like 4 extra teams got in. I mean, to me, if you're not, well, in particular, I'll point out Texas and Vanderbilt. If you're not 500 in your conference, you shouldn't make the NCAA.
If your conference is loaded, I totally disagree. Wait, Texas.
I don't think it's loaded, Caleb.
Dave, the net rankings disagree with you. There was no bias here. Wait.
The net rankings are based mostly off the conference schedule in which you get a quad win by beating a team within your own conference.
Yes, but there are non-conference games in November and December. If you want to say you think this is not a fair formula, fine. But what you can't say is it's SEC bias. There is actual data that they go by. Texas is number 39 in the net rankings right now. They absolutely belong in. Arkansas is number 40. No, they belong in. I'm sorry.
What was Texas's record in the SEC?
Texas's record in the SEC. What does that have to do with anything?
Look, because you don't advance in life if you don't win. Brought to you by Double D Piping. We'll get to fourth down.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Wait, before you hit fourth down, we got to debate Texas because I'm going to go all in on this.
I'm just going to tell you at 6 and 12, they should not be in. I'm not.
Okay, who should be in over them? Who should be in over them?
Well, I'm not going to dig into the A10, but
exactly because everybody's mad about.
I will give you this. It was a bad bubble year. There were not a lot of mid-major teams that I thought pushed the Power 4 or whatever the case may be.
What I'm saying is, Dave, you can't logically say SEC bias got Texas in when every single formula used to rank teams has Texas as one of the top 37 at-large teams.
Again, I'm going to tell you.
Are the formulas biased to the SEC?
The formulas are inaccurate because the formulas put too much weight on the conference schedule.
That's not the debate, though, because the debate is if you want to say the formula's flawed or the formula's inaccurate, fine. But what you can't say.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but then say that, but don't say there's SEC bias. They're going by the formula.
I'm not saying there's SEC bias.
See, we're not debating if the SEC had too many teams in. We're debating if there was a conspiracy in favor of the SEC.
Right.
And there wasn't.
I think that here's the conspiracy, if you want to even call it that. I think Greg Sankey probably makes a couple of phone calls. If he doesn't, then he's not a good commissioner.
Well, no, but
I don't think he threatens anybody necessarily. But I will tell you this: given the two possibilities we discussed, which would be he made no phone calls, which you said, or he strong-armed, I would take strong-arm.
He didn't have to even make a phone call. If he makes no phone calls, 13 SEC teams are in based on the selection committee's been very clear. They're going to rely on the net, and BPI is going to be second. KenPom's going to be third. And Texas was in the top 37 of at-large teams on every single metric. They belong. Now, you can say the formula's flawed, but you can't say there's SEC bias, and that's my argument. There's no conspiracy. Nobody on the selection committee, outside of maybe Greg Byrne, was trying to say, let's try to get an extra SEC team in there. Nobody. That didn't happen.
Caleb, let's get to fourth down. And I would like to remind you that decaf is available.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
All right, fourth down. What is it, Caleb?
If the SEC could strong arm to get teams in, as Dave says, if they could strong arm to get teams in, particularly when they have a partnership with a rival network of the network that carries the NCAA tournament, don't you think they would have been able to strong arm to get an extra team into the college football playoff when the network they're partnered with actually carries the college football playoff? Don't you think at that point they could have strong armed ESPN and the selection committee in the college football playoff to get Alabama in over SMU?
Yeah, they could have.
And guess what? They didn't.
I think they okay. Again, I'm going to tell you that I think it's somewhere in the middle, that a phone call was probably made in that scenario too, but I don't think it's strong arm.
But that's my point. If it's nothing or all, I say nothing because they couldn't get Alabama in over LSU or over SMU. They also couldn't get Tennessee at home against Ohio State when that was the 8-9 matchup. Now, by the way, I think the committee got it right. But if you're going to strong arm for things to be in your favor, why couldn't you strong arm Alabama getting in or Tennessee getting at home against Ohio State in the college football playoff? But somehow you can strong arm, somehow a phone call can make a difference for the NCAA tournament, which doesn't carry, which is not carried on on ESPN. That's when you can make the phone. Do you realize how far this logic falls on its face? This logic sinks faster than the Titanic when you break it down.
I mean, I could look up things on the internet and dispel them as well.
Like what?
I don't know. Something random like you have.
If you're going to, and I'm going to say this, if you think that the SEC not getting an extra team into the college football playoff is, Dave, I want to say it, verifiable, indisputable, hardcore, conclusive evidence that the SEC can't have influence over teams that get into postseasons, including the NCAA tournament. Yes. The SEC's ties with ESPN, believing that the SEC's connection to ESPN is what got them extra teams in a tournament carried by CBS. If you believe that, your brain is so tiny.
I don't think anybody believes that.
No, that was Dave. Just search, and this is my point. Go to Twitter today. Search SEC 14 ESPN. Just search those three things. Credible accounts.
Okay. I hadn't even heard that.
No. Credible accounts are saying the only reason the SEC got 14 teams in is because of their contract with ESPN.
That makes no sense.
You know how stupid you have to be to believe that? Can we say that, Dave? Can I say that on the show? That's a special kind of dumb.
Well, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. That's why it's a special kind of dumb.
That's right. Okay. Kellie Harper gets a job. Her career has legs. She has legs. Also, Tennessee baseball loses. Why that's good for the Vols. It is Bank on It right now, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Commercial Bank, CBTN.com. I think this Tennessee baseball team and it hasn't been that long since, was it 2022, when they had a team of a bunch of machismo egos that probably took things a little bit too far, especially the middle finger going up to the center fielder as the young man rounded second base. And I think that it undermined them later in the season, and they ended up falling short in the College World Series. Now, last year, you had a baseball team that was much more mature. That's what Tennessee needs this year. And I think by losing to ETSU, as they did, Tennessee, and I'm going to tell you why, will actually be a better baseball team moving forward. Now, let's remember, they were 20-0. They're about to face Florida. I'm sorry, they beat Florida last week, and they play Alabama. Both are top 10 teams. So my theory will be put to test pretty quickly. But I think losing to ETSU is a good thing. It's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life.
All right, Caleb, I'm not going to get into the particulars of who Tony Vitello selected to pitch on Tuesday. I'm not going to pretend to know every pitcher from top to bottom on their roster. But I'll say this, and it's the same thing with the reason that I thought Pete Rose should never be in the Hall of Fame. You sometimes have to lose a game early in the season to win more games later in the season. So if Tony Vitello said, I'm not going to go all out and I'm not going to throw another arm out there, I'm going to let this game play out and let my young men work through it. And you'd never want to lose, but if you lose and you get focus in a game like baseball, I mean, you would never want to lose in football to have a learning lesson, but it definitely could be a wake-up call for the team that was considered the consensus #1 team in the nation. Caleb, I go back to, and I think you've referenced this, the New England Patriots or UNLV, two teams that went into the championship game, the Super Bowl in Patriots' case, with undefeated records. There's so much pressure at that point, and the pressure mounts. I think losing to ETSU is a good thing, and you'll never hear me say losing is a good thing.
No, I agree. And let's be clear, you're right. Because of pitching, baseball does not work nearly the same as other sports. I mean, you're not going to get, a lot. You can lose baseball games that happen. I mean, honestly, this is, for those who don't know, this happens in college baseball more often than not. Top 5 teams get upset by a completely forgettable fall out of bed team they should beat in the middle of a week between SEC games. That happens all the time in college baseball. It's not like college basketball. If Tennessee basketball is #1 and lost to ETSU, you'd be like, oh, kind of a problem, right?
Yes, that would be a problem.
Yeah. But this happens regularly in baseball. It's the one sport where upsets, baseball and hockey, upsets are more common in those two sports than any other sport. Let's just talk about it. There's more randomness in those sports. Luck has a bigger factor in determining a winner than skill in those sports. Is that fair to say?
Yep, absolutely.
So yes.
Where are you going? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm with you. Losing to ETSU is not a big deal because of that. It does help them refocus. And you're right. When you're on a mission beyond just winning, it really hurts you. You bring up the Patriots. Funny enough, it wasn't just them going undefeated. Remember Spygate happened in the opening week that year?
Yes.
And Bill Belichick was on a mission to humiliate the whole league because it got caught. And
I didn't really draw that conclusion, but I'm not arguing.
Oh, they were running up the score constantly. He wanted Tom Brady to break Peyton Manning's touchdown record so bad. He was throwing fades on the 1 yard line half the time. So they were going out of their way to absolutely humiliate the entire league. And it got them when they got to the Super Bowl when, guess what? The Giants played a type of game, Dave, where you couldn't really humiliate them, kind of in a dogfight. All of a sudden, you're not really winning the way you wanted to win, and it backfires and you lose. That happens all the time in sports.
And if I can say this to your point too, The Patriots in that game didn't run the football enough. Basically, the Giants had 4 defensive ends.
Yeah.
They were very light up front.
They just did a bunch of stunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. So
they kind of did, if you think about it, what Tennessee did to Florida in 2001. They weren't prowler package standing up, like 2-point stance, but
Dave, I'll go further
They were
than that.
stunning and twisting a lot. Go ahead.
Dave, the reason Spurrier only has 1 national title is Spurrier was on such a mission to humiliate his opponents that if he got stuck in a grinded out game, he kind of didn't know what to do.
Okay, let's stay on topic.
No, I'm just saying, but that's baseball. You're right. The 2022 team was on such a mission to humiliate everybody. I think this one needs a little bit of humble pie. I agree. I don't think it matters. Another one you missed is Kentucky in basketball 2015 when they went undefeated the whole season. They get to the Final Four and Frank Kaminsky outplays Karl Anthony Towns under the basket. Not Karl Anthony Towns' fault. John Calipari doesn't know how to say, "Hey, pass the ball to your big man who's going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft." That didn't process in his mind. But either way, you're right. Losing these type of games helps. I think Tennessee, they were in danger. Put it this way. They were kind of getting dangerously close to being the 2022 team again with how good they were. Is that fair to say?
How good they were, I haven't seen any cockiness from them, though.
Right, but it's hard. You can get... Can I do a Star Wars reference?
I love Star Wars. Just don't do Harry Potter. That's lame.
Okay. When Anakin in the prequels is like more skilled than every Jedi ever, right?
Yeah, he's super skilled.
Super skilled, falls to the dark side, which, by the way, he can embrace his power more. And he's like, this dude can overthrow the Emperor. He's going to become like king. He fights Obi-Wan. He's so convinced he's so skilled that when Obi-Wan has the high ground, he says, "You underestimate my power."
This is the second time you've used this analogy. But anyway.
And he jumps up and Obi-Wan slices his arm and 2 legs off. What I'm saying
Other than that, he was good to go.
By the way, what did Obi-Wan say when he saw Darth Vader 20 years later and they fought in A New Hope? He said, "Nice suit, Anakin. Must have cost you an arm and 2 legs to get."
Pretty good. Okay, go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that, yeah, you need this. We're keeping it simple. Overconfidence. You don't want overconfidence. You need a little bit of a flame out. And particularly in baseball, you need some humble pie, because what you don't want is to be the Braves of the 90s and the 2000s and beat up on a weak division your whole time, and then you get to the playoffs and you lose in the first round every single time with Bobby Cox.
A Dave Concepcion reference in the message board for some reason. I have no idea why that's the case, but I like it. Work trucks, all about trucks. Trucks are actually available. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. They are the chosen one. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting about time. Work Trucks saves you time, less back and forth trips, and trucks pass the highest standards to be put to work. Process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle from Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with nap-hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes. I'll get you what you need. And there on Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham, the entire inventory is worktrucksllc.com, worktrucks with an X, LLC.com. Don't chance your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols, Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Love Day says, I can't say I don't appreciate the Star Wars analogies.
I mean, it's true. I still want to know what the balance was needed in the Force in the prequels, but Lucas's writing sucks. Like, why did they need a chosen one to bring balance to the Force if the Sith didn't exist at first? Like, on it. I mean, just saying.
Okay, let's just say this. If I'm Luke Skywalker, which I think most people, given my personality, would say I'm a very kind, skilled individual. I'm not evil like Anakin, but perhaps not as skilled. Then what does that make Caleb? The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. It rhymes with Miak.
Like a blast from the past, the super dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The super dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire.
And here we go.
This was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Loveday says Caleb is C3PO because he's spitting facts. I don't know that he spit a lot of facts. Did C3PO spit facts, or he just talked different languages?
C3PO was kind of the Spock, played the analytical game, funny enough. But the thing is, like, Han Solo was like, never tell me the odds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb would be Yoda's third cousin. I was going to go with Ewok because he's hairy and not incredibly tall.
Oh my God, Dave. You're like, what?
No. Which would you rather be, C3PO, Yoda, or an Ewok to be
Yoda.
named later?
Yoda. I mean, the dude walks with a cane in the prequels and somehow can fight with a lightsaber.
Okay, for some reason, yeah, I would love to be Yoda. That'd be sweet. No, he's not Jabba. That would be me, if anybody.
Oh, Juta.
Okay, but this, Steve mentions Joe Morgan as random Reds are getting named in the message board. I don't know why, but I do know that I had.
We mentioned Pete Rose in the Big Red Machine.
But I know that I had all 3 of the Eric Davis. Do you remember him, Eric Davis?
No, I was actually.
He was going to be Ken Griffey Jr. before Ken Griffey Jr., but he just got hurt. He got hurt right after I bought his 3 rookie cards for $50 a piece, which was a lot of money because I was like 15 years old, maybe 12. And then he immediately got hurt. I had the Donruss, Fleer, Tops. I had all of them. But I'm going to tell you my Joe Morgan story if I can go Uncle Dave for a second. Who wants Uncle Dave? Do you want Uncle Dave?
Okay.
So I'm working for ESPN. I'm 21 years old. And I'm at the Braves game. And you remember John Miller and Joe Morgan used to do Sunday Night Baseball. So I'm there for Sunday Night Baseball, helping them set up. And I think that whoever the executive producer was thought that I was brighter than the average dude that went down there or gal. And I appreciated that. So he said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be in the press box while other people carry cameras around. And you're going to be in the press box just to aid in the press box. I'm like, well, that's awesome because I get to listen to John Miller and Joe Morgan, right?
Yep.
So Joe Morgan, nicest guy ever. Like, hey, how's it going, buddy? You know, John Miller, who has some Jabba tendencies. Ooh, gah, gah, gah. So Jabba Miller, he will forever be known in my head from this point forward. He says, I wanted a hot tea, but no lemon. Okay. So you go there and they've got the pre-made packs and they've got a hot tea with lemon and a hot tea with raspberry. Now, raspberry sounds like it's out in left field. So what would you have gotten, Caleb?
I'd have gotten lemon.
That's what I got. So I brought it to him and I said, Mr. Miller. I think I did say Mr. Miller, which is weak in retrospect. It's probably why I did what he did. Mr. Miller, I got lemon because they only had raspberry. And Mr. Miller took my tea, or his tea, would not make eye contact with me, threw it directly in the trash, spoke to the executive producer, and the executive producer came up to me and said, "We're going to reassign you."
What a POS.
No.
By the way, he was the Orioles broadcaster for a long time too. But
I know. And Joe Morgan looked at me and he was like, sorry. Joe Morgan, nicest guy in the world. And yes, Uncle Dave is back. Thank you, Love Day. I appreciate that. All right. So what are we doing now here, Caleb? We're getting to
little K Harp. Mrs. Harper.
Gay Harp.
I said K Harp.
Yeah, I know. K Harp, right?
That's what you said. But okay.
What did I say? All right. I had a little bit too much of my energy drink this morning, so I've been at it. My premix. Kellie Harper, hired by Missouri. Kellie Harper, a good coach, bad coach, great coach, awful coach, probably somewhere in the middle. I'm not surprised she got another opportunity. I think that had she been this age, I think she's about 47, 48. Had she been this age when she got the Tennessee job, she would have been able to handle things both on and off the court with a little bit more maturity. She did not make herself available for a lot of public speaking that she was asked to do. I think she felt the pressure of replacing Pat Summitt more than Holly Warlick did, more than Kim Caldwell did. And I think Kellie Harper could go on to have a fantastic career. It just wasn't at the University of Tennessee. That hire was forced by the administration at the time because it was an easy way out without having – it was the whole administration was in flux at the time. And the football program was just an absolute mess. So the goal was to get that hire done, Caleb, I believe, as easily as possible. Don't hold a huge search, which Danny White would do if something happened, if Rick Barnes decided to retire. That is not what Tennessee wanted to do. So I actually feel a little bit sorry for Kellie Harper. She didn't handle it well. Like I said, she didn't do a lot of public speaking and some of the things that Pat always did to promote the game. And that was held against her, trust me, when the decision was made to move on from her. But as a whole, I think she can be a very good coach. I'm not going to say great or elite coach, but a very good coach. You agree or disagree?
I agree she can be a good coach. I don't go very good. Okay. Here's the issue with Kellie Harper. And this is the truth. Kellie Harper's been at 4 places before Missouri. 2 mid-major jobs, 2 Power 5 jobs. She's been fired from both Power 5 jobs, NC State and Tennessee. If you remember, she was at Western Carolina, made 2 NCAA tournaments in 5 years. That's what got her hired at NC State. NC State, she made the NCAA tournament the first year. Then she went 14-17, 19-16, and 17-17, and that got her fired. She goes to Missouri State, and she does very well, actually. She builds them up. They go 14-17, but by the 3rd year, she's in the NCAA tournament. And then 3 years later, she's got them in the Sweet 16. Then at Tennessee, she's a perennial NCAA tournament contender. I mean, let's be honest, like, it's Tennessee. And that 2 second rounds, 2 Sweet 16s. So Missouri, the question for Missouri is going to be this. What are the expectations? This is kind of... Okay, I'm not trying to compare them character-wise, but Dave, I'm going to bring this up because I have to. Butch Jones.
Youch.
Hold on.
Okay.
You've told this story before, how Butch Jones thought that 9-4 was just Tennessee fans should be grateful that that's basically their national championship, right?
Absolutely. Yes. When he was on Alabama's staff, he told somebody that I very much trust. He was standing on the sidelines and Tennessee was struggling at the time. I can't remember the year exactly, but he said that he said, what was wrong with winning 9 games? Which is what he said.
Yeah, which is insane. Now, you and I know that Butch Jones at a place like Arkansas State, nothing wrong with 8-4, right? Perfectly happy. Maybe he'll get the Purdue job one day. You know, Purdue, a school you can go 8-4 at.
He's never going to go 8-4, though. I'll tell you that. Go ahead.
Okay, but I'm saying there are those coaches that their ceiling is 8-4, 9-3, and that's okay. And is that what Missouri is okay with in women's basketball? Kellie Harper's ceiling is making the NCAA tournament, and maybe if things break the right way, getting it going on a run one year. Is Missouri okay with that? If they are, then she's fine.
Does Missouri women's basketball not almost sound like mid-major?
Borderline. I mean, it's funny because Missouri men's basketball sounds like almost a powerhouse program, but you're right. Missouri women's basketball sounds almost mid-major. Here's Kellie Harper's here's why Kellie Harper will be solid. She comes from the old Pat Summitt school. Defense, rebounding, play inside out ball. Slow it down. That is never going to win you. And I don't mean like Rick Barnes isn't slow it down in that way. He slowed it down because I got to adjust to my personnel. Kellie Harper is just straight up defense inside out. That's never going to win you a national title, ever, the way Kellie Harper goes by it. She wants 4 centers that can't run the fast break and then a few 3-point shooters and play like that. Not going to happen. But it might get you to the tournament. It'll get you to the NCAA tournament. And I mean, so that's really what we got to ask if Kellie Harper needs.
Okay, now the question on the message board, is she going to hire her husband, John, without an H? By the way, how does that relationship work? John says, I think a 3/4 press would work. And Kellie says, no, John. I mean, what is,
you know what's so funny about you saying that?
Read this. Read Dylan's comment.
You don't sleep where you eat and you don't eat where you crap. Hiring her husband would not be a smart move.
You went with crap over poop?
I guess that's true. Poop is okay. Anyways, yes, hiring her husband would not be a smart move. Well, I mean, maybe when it comes to your husband, you already never mind. We don't know what goes on.
He's holding out if you don't give him a job. How long can Kellie H ride the ghost of Pat? Let me ask you this: do you believe that's the case? Because I don't. I think she's a solid coach.
Yeah, I think she's a solid coach who knows ball. She's just got an antiquated style that she's not going to change from because it's what she believes in. That's not going to win you any championships. And it's not going to work at Tennessee nowadays with what they need to do. Here's Kellie. Oh, here's the other problem with Kellie Harper. And this is the other big one. Recruiting. She had trouble recruiting it. She had trouble recruiting at Tennessee. And you don't really have to have trouble recruiting at Missouri. That's okay as long as you can be an X's and O's person, right?
Right. But it does point out, maybe I've got her, when I say very good, maybe that's a little too high, because if you can't recruit to Tennessee, then you can't recruit.
Right. You can't recruit. But some schools just need an X's and O's coach. Doesn't need one who can recruit,
or vice versa, just a recruiting coach.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's true. Like LSU in football. Just need a guy to get the talent in LSU in Louisiana.
Vice versa, John. The UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services locally owned and operated. The link right down below. They'll help you grow your business. That's the UPS store Hardin Valley. As I remind you, we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Again, broadcasting from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. I've got my Jeep. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. You will love your buying experience there at Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Why? Because they have an incredible selection of used and new vehicles. They're East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. You have to go to Ted Russell Ford Lincoln for your next vehicle purchase. Even if you're not thinking Ford or Lincoln, they're going to have the selection that you need. And the buying process, sublime. Absolutely unbelievable. Grand total, maybe an hour, hour and a half I spent on purchasing my Jeep. I love it. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Why the Vols should sue the NCAA yet again. But first, Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is where you need to purchase your next vehicle.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or...
All right, what's going on in West Virginia other than meth?
Heroin, okay. So, West Virginia's got a very diverse business scene, okay?
They upgraded. Their state bird is fentanyl. Well, what's going on in West Virginia? You wanted to talk about this. What do you got?
Governor Patrick Morrisey is threatening.
He used to be a singer. Morrisey?
I don't know.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
You know pop culture from like way before my time. Okay, I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
Citing a miscarriage of justice, has threatened legal action against the NCAA for West Virginia University being left out of the NCAA tournament this year, Dave. That's right.
Well, that's a shame. You should sue if things don't go your way. Just sue.
Well, he says West Virginia deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. He called it miscarriage of justice. He said the NCAA stands for the National Corrupt Athletic Association. Oh, man. The first of the gang to die.
It's Morrissey in Berlin. Go ahead.
You just totally messed up our copyright. Okay, so now I'm going to have to go fight YouTube to clear things out and do a ton of work. You just added a lot of work to my day, Dave.
Sorry about that. You mentioned Morrissey. I've never even heard Morrissey. I just remember who he was.
Okay, so he says that National NCAA stands for National Corrupt Athletic Association. Man, so clever. And says that West Virginia deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. And he wants to file a lawsuit to determine if any backroom deals, corruption, bribes, or any nefarious activity occurred during the selection process. And he says, the Attorney General and I are going to leave no stone unturned during this process. We need to get to the bottom of it. Oh, and he pointed out North Carolina particularly. He says North Carolina went 1-12 in quad 1 games and even had a quad 3 loss, which is fair. And then he talked about Bubba Cunningham, which we talked about earlier, being the selection committee chair. So he was... But he says it's too soon for litigation.
Why wouldn't you go ahead and litigate? Why? Because that would cost money, and then the taxpayers would say, don't do that. It's basketball, you idiot.
Exactly. And his final quote is, it's easy for the casual fan to look at the NCAA tournament and see it as a fun way to fill out a bracket. But at the end of the day, it's $1 billion business that involves NIL. It involves the lifetime's work of work for a ton of student athletes who this would have been a pinnacle of their career. Well, if they wanted to reach the pinnacle of their career, I'm not saying West Virginia didn't belong, but I've always said, Dave, if you're on the bubble and you want to reach the pinnacle of your career, get your one shining moment, maybe do enough work in the regular season to not be on the bubble.
No, I agree. And listen, this is the same thing as Tim Burchett grandstanding about Alberto Asunda. This just endears you to the voters in that state. Everybody's like, yeah, go. When the other 49 states are, you're a moron. And I mean, this has no legs, but you wanted to spin it into what could Tennessee sue the NCAA about again, because they win when they sue the NCAA. It has to be Alberto Asunda, right?
I would sue the NCAA over Alberto Asunda. Yes.
Well, here's the problem. They are, but the hearing is not going to be until June. So you could win the hearing, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because he wouldn't be able to play. I guess maybe they could sue and then have him play next year because they held him out this year. That's maybe what they would claim. So they could definitely sue over Alberto Asunda. But why stop there, Dave? Why don't they get as petty as West Virginia? They should sue for the fact that they had to go visit Ohio State last year. They could claim they should be the 8th seed and should have gotten to play that game at home.
Okay, let me take a step in another direction. How about you sue because you got hit with any NCAA violations or penalties because of Jeremy Pruitt, because in retrospect, you were allowed to pay players anyway, and it proved to be illegal.
They lost money on that.
I actually think that one holds some water.
Well, that's what the university would do. I'm talking about, like, for the state could talk about revenue for themselves. The reason I said sue Ohio State, they could sue the College Football Playoff Committee over Ohio State. They could come out and say, hey, look, the game was at Ohio State. That's lost revenue for the state of Tennessee because that game should have been at Neyland Stadium. Maybe they should sue on behalf of the Lady Vols for having to go play the first weekend of the NCAA tournament in Columbus and not getting to host it. But you're right. They should still sue with Jeremy Pruitt because they should say, hey, they should sue on behalf of the Chick-fil-A branches in their state. But I'm just saying, keep suing. Heck, just retroactively sue ESPN for costing Peyton Manning the Heisman. Do it.
That could work, I guess.
Saying not having a Heisman winner at our flagship campus hurts potential tourists who would want to come to our flagship campus to see the Peyton Manning history.
Dylan, that is the post of the day. No question. Don't touch me or my daddy will sue. You know what that's from?
I don't, but I know what I get the concept, but what's it from?
Okay, I'm not going to tell. So I want whoever puts it in there, you win a Celebrate 98 book. It can't be you, Dylan, because you obviously know it's one of the greatest movies of all time. So go ahead and put it in there. What else would you sue for, Caleb?
What else should the state of Tennessee sue for? Guys, give me some ideas on your end. On what? Oh, that's a good one. Steve Sullivan's right. State of Tennessee needs to sue Nebraska for canceling that series with them. That's lost revenue for the state.
You actually could probably get away with that.
You have a case. You have a really strong case on that one. They signed a contract. That's not a bad one at all. You're right. City of Knoxville can sue Nebraska. That's a very good one. So,
yeah, well, usually the university, in this case Nebraska, that pulls out of one of these would be covered because there's a buyout. So the University of Tennessee, I'm trying to find, Nebraska agreed to $1 million buyout for canceling a home and home series. So they paid $1 million to the university, but they didn't pay anything to the city. So
yeah,
I think you could.
I
definitely think you could sue
on behalf of the hotels, right? That probably expected some people from Nebraska to come into. Yeah, I think you could absolutely sue for that. I mean, it's not just the university that makes money from these games. I mean, guys, it's how many? Dave, I got a question. How many restaurants and hotels and college football based towns are in business because of college football?
Most. Brandon says Smokey and the Bandit. Heck yeah, Brandon. There's my email. Go ahead and email me your address and I will send you a Celebrate 98 book. You can purchase those online. If we can drop that link in there, that would be fantastic. If you would like to buy a book, some of them are autographed by former Vols as well that were on that team. Yeah, remember that was the little we're talking a lot about short things today. Ewoks and the little guy in the suit, Smokey and the Bandit. There was a big fat guy in a suit and there was a little guy in a suit. And they wore the same suit, and they were the ones that wanted to run Coors from Texas to I really don't remember where, and that's considered bootlegging because you couldn't buy Coors east of the Mississippi, I think.
That's so wild, really? That makes sense. I think I remember hearing stories that like some people I know would drive west to go buy Coors. Wasn't a problem if you lived in Memphis because Arkansas is on the other side. But
Mike Strange, former writer at the News Sentinel, talks like this. The only guy that had a deeper voice than me. And he said that like along the lines of like the mid 90s, because he and I were both craft beer fans. He said he flew out to Denver for the first time and in the airport, there was craft beer. And it was the first time he had ever seen anything other than Bud Light, Miller Lite in a tap.
Oh, I can believe that. That started in there was a bill in the late 70s that deregulated the brewing industry, and that's why craft beer exploded in the 2000s.
I couldn't remember their name. It was Texas to Georgia. Big Enos and Little Enos. Have you seen Smokey and the Bandit, Caleb?
No, I actually haven't, funny enough. I need to. But wait, okay, how about this, though? Speaking of all these lawsuits, someone had a good point. UT should. Do you know Ohio State University just trademarked the word "the"?
Who did?
Ohio State. They've trademarked the word "the."
That was so stupid.
UT should trademark UT. Make Texas pay them every time they put UT anywhere.
Surely there's a loophole there.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. I think there's a
whole question: Coors, drinkable or water? Because it is the worst beer that's ever been sold. Let me hear from you there on the message board. Coors, drinkable beer or water? It's the absolute worst. I remember being 25-ish and drinking 12 Coors and thinking that I maybe had drank one real beer. I mean, it's just absolutely horrendous. And Coors Light's worse. I love Chris Lowe of ESPN, but he's a Coors Light guy. And he and I one time, let's just say we might have been sitting somewhere with a little bit of a challenge that included one person drinking whiskey and one person drinking Coors Light. And he bragged about winning. Well, I was drinking whiskey.
Yeah, you got to drink liquor. I mean, not liquor. You got to drink craft beer with like 8% if you're going to compete with a shot of whiskey for every one of them.
Completely agree. And Coors Light should not even be on the menu.
No, it should not. But you know what's funny is I love how like there's this whole like dudes drink beer and women drink wine and dudes like we're so tough we drink beer. But it's like if you're drinking Coors Light or Miller Lite or Bud Light, you do realize that your wife is drinking more alcohol than you with her wine, right? Like your wife is out drinking you if you're drinking Coors Light and she's drinking wine.
She probably drinks slower, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Coors Light's just awful. You said, does your wife have a problem? My dad had a 79 and 78 Bandit Trans Am. Man, I would like that. I would love to have a Trans Am. Like if you could just have an extra car that you don't have to pay for, but like you're like Jay Leno, you've already got 200 cars and you're going to add something to the equation. Where does Smokey and Bandit Trans Am rank?
Guys, we're having this conversation. I haven't seen it. I'm totally left out of the conversation here.
All right. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. We'll see you at 10 o'clock each and every weekday. We certainly appreciate you. Great show today. Your interaction is fantastic. We greatly appreciate it. For Caleb